My name is Carol, and at 54 years old, I thought I knew everything about trust and betrayal. I was wrong. Last Tuesday night, I stood in my daughter's brand new house, surrounded by her friends, celebrating what they thought was her success. But there was something they didn't know, something she didn't expect. The doorbell rang at exactly 7 p.m., and when I saw her face change from joy to pure terror, I knew justice had finally arrived. Before I tell you this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this one. Trust me, what happens next will show you just how far a mother will go when pushed to her breaking point. I need to start at the beginning, back when Jessica was still the daughter I thought I knew. After my husband passed away 8 years ago, it was just the two of us against the world. I worked at First National Bank for 28 years, starting as a teller and working my way up to senior loan officer. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was steady, honest, and it put food on our table. Jessica was 16 when her father died, and I watched her struggle through those dark months. She'd sit at the kitchen table doing homework tears, falling onto her math problems. I'd rub her shoulders and promise her everything would be okay. Maybe I should have been more honest about how scared I was too. But Jessica was resilient. She threw herself into her studies, graduated valedictorian, and earned a full scholarship to Northwestern University. I was so proud I cried at her graduation. She hugged me tight that day and whispered, "Mom, I'll pay you back for everything someday. You sacrificed so much for me." Those words should have been a comfort. Instead, they would come back to haunt me. After college, Jessica landed a marketing job at a mid-sized firm in downtown Chicago. She was making decent money, not a fortune, but enough to support herself in a small apartment. We'd have dinner together every Sunday, and she'd tell me about her work, her co-workers, her dreams of someday buying a house. I loved those evenings. I'd teach her about budgeting and responsible credit use, sharing what I'd learned from 28 years in banking. She seemed so interested, asking thoughtful questions about loans and credit scores. I thought I was preparing her for financial success. "You're so smart about money, Mum," she'd say, helping me clear the dishes. "I hope I'm half as good with finances as you are." Jessica even helped me adapt to new technology. She set up my smartphone, showed me how to use social media, and patiently explained online banking. We'd laugh together when I'd accidentally take a selfie while trying to make a call. One Mother's Day, she surprised me with a beautiful necklace. "This is the first gift I've ever bought you with my own money," she said, fastening it around my neck. "It feels different knowing I earned this myself." I treasured that necklace and that moment. It felt like proof that I'd raised her right, that all those years of sacrifice had been worth it. For months, everything seemed perfect. Jessica was thriving, independent, and we maintained our close relationship. She had started dating David, a seemingly nice man who worked in finance. When she brought him to Sunday dinner, he was polite and respectful, asking thoughtful questions about my work at the bank. But looking back now, I realized those questions weren't just polite conversation. He was gathering information, learning about banking procedures, understanding how loans worked from the inside. I was giving him a masterclass in financial fraud, and I didn't even know it. The last normal Sunday dinner we had, Jessica seemed different. Excited, but in a secretive way. She kept checking her phone and smiling at messages. "You seem happy," I observed, refilling her wine glass. "I am, Mum. Really happy. Big things are happening for me." She squeezed my hand across the table. "I can finally start giving back to you the way you gave to me." I should have asked more questions. I should have pressed her for details. But I was just so happy to see her thriving that I didn't want to pry. I trusted her completely. That trust was about to cost me everything. The first sign something was wrong came on a Thursday morning in October. I was sorting through my mail when I found an envelope from Wells Fargo, a bank I'd never done business with. My hands shook slightly as I opened it. "Thank you for your recent credit inquiry," the letter began. "While we were unable to approve your application at this time," I read it 3 times, confusion growing with each pass. I hadn't applied for any credit. I hadn't even been shopping for a loan. I set the letter aside, assuming it was a mistake, maybe identity confusion with someone who shared my name. But the feeling of unease lingered. 2 days later, I called Jessica to ask about her plans for Halloween. The call went straight to voicemail. When she finally called back that evening, she sounded distracted, almost irritated. "Sorry, Mum, work has been crazy. This new project is taking all my time." "What kind of project?" I asked. "Just marketing stuff. You wouldn't find it interesting." Her tone was dismissive, in a way that felt new and hurtful. "I find everything you do interesting, sweetheart." "I know, Mum. I'm sorry, I'm just stressed. Can we talk later this week?" The call ended abruptly, leaving me staring at my phone. In 29 years of being Jessica's mother, she'd never been too busy to talk to me about her work. The next Monday, I had coffee with my friend Margaret from the bank. We'd worked together for 15 years, and she knew Jessica almost as well as I did. As we settled into our usual booth at Rosie's Diner, Margaret seemed unusually quiet. "Carol," she said, finally stirring her coffee nervously, "I probably shouldn't say anything, but I think you should check your credit report." My stomach dropped. "Why would you say that?" "There was a flag in our system. Someone ran a credit check using your social security number last month. I thought maybe you were shopping for a car or something, but when I saw you hadn't mentioned it..." The coffee suddenly tasted bitter. "I haven't applied for anything, Margaret. Nothing at all." She reached across the table and touched my hand. "Probably just a clerical error, but it's worth checking. You know how identity theft is these days." That afternoon, I went online and ordered my free annual credit report. The email confirmation said it would arrive in 7 to 10 business days. Those would be the longest 10 days of my life. Meanwhile, other troubling details began to surface. During coffee with my church friends, Linda Patricia and Susan Linda, mentioned seeing Jessica at the upscale Whole Foods in Maple Heights, a wealthy neighborhood on the other side of town. "She was loading groceries into this gorgeous silver BMW," Linda said. I waved, but she didn't see me. "When did she get such a fancy car?" I had no answer. Jessica had never mentioned a new car. Patricia chimed in, "Oh, I think she moved to that area. My realtor mentioned someone young had bought one of those big houses on Elm Street. When she described the buyer, it sounded just like Jessica." My heart started racing. Jessica didn't tell me she was moving. "Maybe she wanted to surprise you," Susan suggested kindly. "You know how she likes to make grand gestures." But something felt very wrong. The Jessica I knew told me everything. She'd never make a major life change without discussing it with me first. That evening, I scrolled through Jessica's social media for the first time in months. What I saw made my blood run cold. Photos from a recent trip to Paris, designer handbags, expensive jewelry, restaurant meals that cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. The most recent post showed her in front of a beautiful house with the caption, "Dreams do come true when you work hard enough." The house was gorgeous, easily worth several $100,000. How could she afford any of this on her marketing salary? I called her immediately. "Hi, Mum," she answered on the 5th ring, sounding breathless. "Jessica, I saw your social media. You took a trip to Europe." "Oh, that. Yeah. Work sent me for a conference, all expenses paid." "And the house Linda said she saw you in Maple Heights." A pause. "I got a promotion, Mum. A big one. I didn't want to say anything until it was official." "What kind of promotion?" "Senior Marketing Director. It comes with a significant salary increase." Her voice sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced this explanation. That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud of you. But even as I said the words, doubt crept in. Senior director seemed like a big jump for someone only 2 years out of college. Thanks, Mum. Listen, I have to run. David and I have dinner reservations. At one of those expensive restaurants you've been posting about. Another pause. We're celebrating the promotion. I'll call you tomorrow. Okay. But she didn't call the next day, or the day after that. When my credit report finally arrived, I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, expecting to find the clerical error Margaret had mentioned. Instead, I found my worst nightmare. There it was in black and white, a mortgage loan for $650,000 approved 4 months earlier. The property address was in Maple Heights, the exact neighborhood where Linda had seen Jessica. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone. I called the loan officer listed on the credit report immediately. My voice shook as I identified myself to Mr. Henderson at Wells Fargo. Mrs. Thompson. Yes, I remember your loan application, he said cheerfully. How can I help you? I need to understand something. I never applied for a loan with your bank. Silence on the other end. Then carefully. Ma'am, you came into our office in June and signed all the paperwork personally. I remember you well. That's impossible. I've never set foot in a Wells Fargo branch in my life. Mrs. Thompson, I think there might be some confusion. Let me pull up your file. I heard typing in the background. Yes, here it is. You provided 2 forms of ID, your social security card, proof of income, and employment verification. We even have security footage of the signing. My world tilted. Can I see that footage? I'll need to check with my supervisor, but I think we can arrange that. This is highly unusual, Mrs. Thompson. Are you suggesting someone impersonated you? I don't know what I'm suggesting. I just know I never took out that loan. 2 hours later, I was sitting in Mr. Henderson's office watching security footage from June 15th. The woman on the screen had her back to the camera initially, but when she turned to sign documents, my heart stopped. It was Jessica. My own daughter wearing a dark wig and glasses, but unmistakably Jessica. I watched in horror as she confidently signed my name to document after document. She handed over identification that looked genuine. She smiled and chatted with Mr. Henderson as if she belonged there. Mrs. Thompson. Mr. Henderson's voice seemed to come from very far away. Are you all right? I couldn't speak. I just kept staring at the screen, watching my daughter destroy my financial life with practiced ease. Do you know this woman? He asked gently. She's my daughter, I whispered. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. Mr. Henderson shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I'm very sorry, Mrs. Thompson. We'll need to involve our fraud department immediately. This is identity theft on a massive scale. As I drove home in a daze, my phone rang. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. For a moment, I considered not answering. But I needed to hear her voice, needed to understand how the daughter I'd raised could do this to me. Hi, Mom, she said brightly. Sorry I haven't called. Work has been insane. Jessica. My voice came out flat, emotionless. We need to talk. Is everything okay? You sound strange. I found the loan, Jessica. The $650,000 loan you took out in my name. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Mum, I can explain. Explain how you stole my identity. Explain how you forged my signature. Explain how you've been living a lie for months. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Her voice broke. I was going to pay it back before you ever found out. With what money? You're a junior marketing associate. I had a plan, Mum. David has connections. We were going to flip the house, make enough profit to pay back the loan and have money left over. The casual way she said it made my stomach turn. So David knows about this. He helped me with the paperwork. He has experience with real estate transactions. I pulled into my driveway, needing to be home, needing familiar surroundings, while my world collapsed. Jessica, do you understand what you've done? You've destroyed my credit. I could lose my house. I could lose everything. No, Mum, it's not that bad. The house is worth more than we paid. We can sell it and pay everything back. There is no we in this, Jessica. You stole from me. I borrowed from you. It's different. Without my knowledge, without my consent. That's not borrowing, that's stealing. I was shouting now, something I'd never done in all her years growing up. Mum, please just listen. You raised me to be successful. You always said I could achieve anything. I just took a shortcut to get there faster. I raised you to be honest. I raised you to work for what you have. I raised you better than this. You raised me to want more, to not settle for less than I deserve. This house, this lifestyle, it's what you always dreamed I'd have. Not like this, Jessica. Never like this. You're being dramatic, Mum. It's just money. We're family. That's when I knew. My daughter wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was only sorry she'd been caught. The Jessica I'd raised, the one who cried over homeless people on the news and insisted on donating her allowance to charity, was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed. Jessica, I said quietly, you need to turn yourself in. Turn myself in. Mom, are you crazy? This is between us. Family business. You committed a federal crime. You're not going to turn in your own daughter. I know you, Mum. You love me too much. The certainty in her voice chilled me. Fix this, Jessica. Sell the house, pay back the loan, and turn yourself in. Maybe if you cooperate, the charges will be reduced. There aren't going to be any charges because you're not going to press them. You would never do that to me. I hung up without another word. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room surrounded by photo albums filled with memories of raising Jessica. Her first steps, her first day of school, high school graduation, college acceptance letter. Where had I gone wrong? I kept coming back to that question, torturing myself with possibilities. Had I been too lenient, too trusting? Had I somehow taught her that rules didn't apply to her? Or was this simply who she'd always been, and I'd been too blinded by maternal love to see it? The next morning I called my attorney, Robert Rodriguez, who'd handled my husband's estate. His secretary squeezed me in for an emergency appointment. Carol, he said, studying my credit report, this is bad, really bad. Your credit score has dropped almost 200 points. The debt-to-income ratio alone could prevent you from getting any kind of credit for years. What are my options? Well, you can file a police report for identity theft. That's step one. But even with criminal charges, the bank isn't required to forgive the debt immediately. This could take years to resolve. Years. Identity theft cases involving family members are complex. Banks are often skeptical that the victim truly didn't know what was happening. They'll investigate whether you benefited from the fraud in any way. My heart sank. I had no idea she was doing this. I believe you, but we'll need to prove it. Bank records, phone records, surveillance footage, witness testimony. It's going to be expensive and emotionally draining. What if I don't file charges? What if I just try to work something out privately? Mr. Rodriguez leaned forward. Carol, listen to me carefully. If you don't file charges, the bank will assume you were complicit. They'll hold you fully responsible for the debt. You could lose your house. Your retirement savings could be garnished. At 54, you'd be starting over with nothing. The weight of it all pressed down on me. So I have to choose between destroying my daughter's life and destroying my own. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what you have to choose. Over the next few days, the pressure intensified from every direction. The bank called daily demanding payment arrangements. Jessica called even more frequently, alternating between tearful apologies and angry accusations. "You're choosing money over your own daughter," she sobbed during one call. "I'm choosing survival," I replied. "Dad would never have done this to me. Dad would never have needed to. He would have raised you better." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but I was past caring about her feelings. She'd certainly shown no concern for mine. David came to my house on Thursday evening, his demeanor completely different from the polite young man I'd met at Sunday dinners. He was aggressive, intimidating, standing too close as he spoke. "You need to think about what you're doing, Carol. Jessica made one mistake. Don't ruin her whole life over it." "Get off my property," I said, my hand on the door. "We can work this out privately. No lawyers, no police, family business." I said, "Get off my property. You're making a mistake you'll regret." After he left, I called my sister Ruth in Arizona. We'd always been close, and I needed someone who would give me honest advice without judgment. "Carol, honey, what that girl did is unforgivable," Ruth said after I'd told her everything. "I know she's your daughter, but you can't let her destroy you." "But what kind of mother turns in her own child? The kind who taught her child right from wrong and expects her to face the consequences when she chooses wrong. You didn't create this situation, Carol. Jessica did." I keep thinking there must be another way. There might have been if she'd shown genuine remorse, if she'd immediately sold the house and tried to make things right. But from what you've told me, she's not sorry. She's just sorry she got caught. Ruth was right, but that didn't make the decision easier. The breaking point came on Friday afternoon. Margaret called me at work, her voice tense. "Carol, you need to know something. Jessica was here this morning." "At the bank." "She tried to take out another loan, $200,000 using your information again." My legs gave out. I sank into my desk chair, the phone pressed to my ear. I recognized her immediately and refused the application, but Carol, she wasn't embarrassed or apologetic. She was angry. She demanded to speak to my supervisor. She actually seemed to believe she had a right to use your identity. "Did you call security?" "Yes. And I've flagged your social security number in our system. But Carol, if she tried here, she's probably trying at other banks too. You need to stop this now before she buries you in debt you'll never recover from." That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with Jessica's baby pictures spread in front of me. In every photo, she was smiling, innocent, full of promise. I'd given everything to this child: my youth, my career advancement opportunities, my dating life, my financial security. And she'd repaid me by stealing my identity and trying to steal my future. I picked up the phone and called the police. "I need to report identity theft," I told the dispatcher. "My daughter has been taking out loans in my name." The words felt like acid in my throat, but they were the truth. And for the first time in months, telling the truth felt like the right thing to do. Detective Morrison arrived at my house the next morning, a kind-faced woman in her 40s who immediately put me at ease. She listened to my story without judgment, taking careful notes as I explained the timeline of events. "Mrs. Thompson, I know this is difficult, but you're doing the right thing. Identity theft is a serious crime, regardless of who commits it." "Will she go to prison?" "That depends on several factors: the amount stolen, her criminal history, her willingness to cooperate. But yes, prison is likely given the substantial amount involved." Detective Morrison explained the process. They would investigate, gather evidence, and if sufficient proof existed, Jessica would be arrested. The district attorney would then decide whether to prosecute. "I need to warn you," she said gently. "Family members often pressure victims to drop charges in cases like this. Stay strong. Remember that you're not just protecting yourself, you're protecting other potential victims." Other victims. People who do this rarely stop with one crime. Your daughter has clearly developed sophisticated methods. If she's not held accountable now, she'll likely target others. Over the next week, Detective Morrison's team worked quickly. They obtained the security footage from Wells Fargo, analyzed the forged documents, and traced the electronic trail Jessica had left behind. What they found was worse than I'd imagined. This wasn't Jessica's first fraud. She'd been practicing on smaller scales for over a year. A credit card in her ex-boyfriend's name. Fake references for apartment applications. A pattern of increasingly bold deceptions that culminated in stealing my identity. "She's been building up to this for a long time," Detective Morrison explained. "The expertise required to forge the documents she used to create false employment verification to navigate the loan process so smoothly that doesn't happen overnight. David, it turned out, was more than just Jessica's boyfriend. He had a record of financial crimes and had clearly been coaching her. Together, they'd planned to use the house as collateral for additional loans, creating a house of cards that would eventually collapse, leaving me responsible for massive debt. They were using you as their personal ATM," the detective said bluntly, "and they had no intention of stopping." On Wednesday evening, Jessica called me for the last time before her arrest. "Mom, I heard you've been talking to the police." Her voice was cold, calculating. "Yes, I have. I can't believe you'd do this to your own daughter. I can't believe my own daughter would steal my identity and ruin my credit. This is going to destroy our family. You already destroyed our family, Jessica. I'm just trying to save what's left of my life. When I go to prison, that's on you. When I can't get a job because of a criminal record, that's on you. When your grandchildren grow up without their mother because she's in jail, that's on you." The emotional manipulation was so blatant, it almost made me laugh. "Jessica, you made these choices. Every single one of them. I'm not responsible for the consequences of your actions. You're supposed to protect me. You're my mother. I did protect you. For 29 years I protected you, provided for you, loved you unconditionally. And you repaid me by stealing from me. So now I'm protecting myself. I'll never forgive you for this. I'll learn to live with that." 2 days later, Detective Morrison called with the news I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. "We have an arrest warrant for Jessica Thompson. She's being charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Multiple felony counts." "When will you arrest her?" "Soon. Is there anything else you need to tell me about her whereabouts or activities?" I thought about the housewarming party invitation that had arrived in my mailbox that morning. Jessica's elegant handwriting on expensive stationery, inviting me to celebrate the house she'd bought with stolen money. "Actually," I said slowly, "there might be." Detective Morrison listened as I read the invitation aloud. "She's throwing a party to show off the house she bought with your stolen identity," the detective said. "That's either incredibly stupid or incredibly arrogant. Maybe both. Mrs. Thompson, how would you feel about us serving the warrant at this party?" The idea sent a chill through me. In front of all her friends. It would send a clear message about the consequences of financial crimes. And frankly, after what she's put you through, she deserves the public humiliation. I thought about all the lies Jessica had told those friends. How she'd presented herself as successful and accomplished, while secretly stealing from her own mother. How many of them had she impressed with money that wasn't hers? "Do it," I said. The next few days passed in a blur of preparation and anxiety. Ruth flew in from Arizona to support me through what we both knew would be one of the most difficult days of my life. "You don't have to go to the party," she reminded me Friday evening as we sat in my living room. "Yes, I do. She needs to see my face when justice is served. She needs to understand that actions have consequences, even when you're someone's beloved daughter. What will you say to her?" "The truth. That I love her, but I won't let her destroy me. That being family doesn't give you the right to steal from each other. That I raised her to be better than this." Saturday evening, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, choosing my outfit carefully. I selected a navy blue dress, professional but not formal, and my late husband's watch. I wanted to look strong, dignified, like someone who'd made a difficult but necessary decision. At 6:30, I drove to Maple Heights, my hands steady on the steering wheel for the first time in weeks. As I turned onto Elm Street, I saw the house Jessica had bought with my stolen identity. It was beautiful. Exactly the kind of home I'd dreamed she might own someday. But not like this. Never like this. Detective Morrison's unmarked car was parked 2 blocks away. She'd coordinated the timing perfectly. I would arrive first, attend the party just long enough to confirm Jessica was there, and then the arrest team would move in. At exactly 7 p.m. justice would be served. The house was blazing with lights as I walked up the brick pathway. Through the windows I could see Jessica's friends laughing, drinking wine, admiring the home she'd bought with stolen money. The scene looked perfect, like something from a magazine about successful young professionals. I rang the doorbell, my heart pounding, but my resolve steady. Jessica opened the door, wearing a designer dress I'd never seen before, probably worth more than I spent on clothes in 6 months. Her face lit up with genuine surprise and happiness. "Mum, you came? I wasn't sure you would after our conversation." She hugged me tightly, and for just a moment I remembered what it felt like to love her without reservation. Then I thought about the $650,000 she'd stolen, and my spine stiffened. "I wouldn't miss seeing your new house," I said carefully. Come in, come in. There are so many people I want you to meet." Jessica led me through rooms filled with expensive furniture and artwork, introducing me to her colleagues and friends as the most amazing mother in the world, and the woman who taught me everything about success. Each introduction felt like a knife twisting in my chest. These people were congratulating Jessica for achievements built on fraud. They were admiring a lifestyle funded by my stolen identity. "Your daughter is so inspiring," gushed a young woman named Amanda. "She went from nothing to this gorgeous house in just a few years. It gives me hope for my own future." "She's always been determined," I managed to say. David appeared at Jessica's side, his arm possessively around her waist. He gave me a cold smile that her friends couldn't see. "Carol, so nice of you to come. I know how proud you must be of Jessica's success." "Overwhelmed," I replied truthfully. Jessica began giving tours of the house, pointing out features like the gourmet kitchen and master suite. She spoke about her business acumen and smart investments, while I followed silently, watching her lie effortlessly to people who believed every word. "The down payment came from careful saving and some help from my wonderful mother," she told the group in the living room. "She taught me that hard work and smart financial planning can make any dream come true." Several people turned to smile at me appreciatively. I forced myself to nod and smile back, all while checking my watch. 6:58 p.m. "Mum," Jessica said, pulling me aside as the tour ended, "thank you for not making trouble about the loan situation. I knew you'd understand that family sticks together." "Family," I repeated quietly. "I promise I'll have everything sorted out soon. David has some deals in the works. We'll pay back every penny, and you'll see this was all worth it." "Jessica," I said, meeting her eyes directly, Do you remember what I used to tell you when you were little and did something wrong? She looked puzzled. Which thing? That every choice has a consequence. Good choices lead to good consequences. Bad choices lead to bad consequences. Mum, you're being dramatic again. Everything worked out fine. At exactly 7 p.m., the doorbell rang. Jessica frowned. I'm not expecting anyone else. David, are you? David shook his head, but I noticed his face had gone pale. Maybe he suspected what was coming. I'll get it, I said, moving toward the door before Jessica could stop me. I opened it to reveal Detective Morrison and two uniformed officers. Behind them stood a bailiff with an official-looking folder. Good evening, Detective Morrison said loudly enough for the party guests to hear. We're looking for Jessica Thompson. The room fell completely silent. Jessica appeared behind me, confusion shifting to dawning horror as she processed what she was seeing. Jessica Thompson, you're under arrest for identity theft, bank fraud, and forgery. What? Jessica's voice came out as a strangled whisper. Mum, what did you do? I turned to face my daughter, my voice steady and clear. I did what you forced me to do. I chose to protect myself instead of enabling you. You called the police on your own daughter. David stepped forward aggressively, but the uniformed officers moved between us. I called the police on someone who stole my identity and $650,000, I replied calmly. The fact that she happens to be my daughter doesn't change what she did. Jessica's friends began murmuring, phones appearing as people started recording. This wasn't the kind of party they'd expected to attend. Jessica Thompson, Detective Morrison continued, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Mum, please. Jessica's composure completely cracked. Don't let them do this. Think about what people will say. Think about our family. I thought about what people would say when you were living a lie funded by my stolen money. I thought about our family when you decided to betray my trust and steal my future. The detective continued reading Miranda rights while Jessica sobbed. David tried to intervene, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, but the officers were professional and unmoved. You're destroying my life, Jessica screamed as the handcuffs clicked into place. You already destroyed your own life, I said sadly. And you tried to destroy mine. I'm just making sure that doesn't happen. As they led Jessica toward the police car, she turned back one final time. Her designer dress was wrinkled, her makeup streaked with tears, her carefully constructed facade completely shattered. I'll never forgive you for this. Maybe someday you'll understand that I did this because I love you. Real love means holding people accountable for their actions. The party guests stood in shocked silence as Jessica was placed in the back of the police car. Some filmed with their phones, others whispered among themselves. A few quietly slipped out the back door, wanting no part of the drama. David tried to follow the police car, shouting about lawyers and rights, but they were already gone. The house that Jessica had bought with stolen money stood empty and echoing, filled with expensive things that would soon be sold to pay restitution. I walked through the rooms one final time, past the furniture and artwork that my daughter had purchased with my stolen identity. Everything was beautiful and meaningless, a monument to greed and betrayal. As I reached my car, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months: relief. For the first time since discovering the fraud, I could breathe freely. Justice had been served, and my financial nightmare could finally begin to end. Behind me, Jessica's dream house stood dark and empty, waiting for the bank to reclaim it. The American dream, built on stolen foundations, had finally collapsed. The immediate aftermath felt surreal. I drove home through quiet streets, my hands finally steady on the steering wheel. When Ruth asked how I felt, I told her the truth, like I could breathe again for the first time in months. The legal proceedings moved quickly once Jessica was in custody. Faced with overwhelming evidence, including security footage and document analysis, she accepted a plea agreement. 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and full restitution. The house would be sold, with proceeds going toward paying back the loan. David disappeared as soon as Jessica was arrested, abandoning her to face the consequences alone. The man who'd helped plan the fraud and promised to stand by her vanished the moment real accountability arrived. The first letters Jessica sent from prison were filled with anger and blame. She accused me of ruining her life, of caring more about money than family, of being a vindictive mother who'd chosen revenge over love. I didn't respond to those letters. She needed to sit with her anger until she was ready to take responsibility for her choices. Slowly, the tone of her correspondence began to change. Her counselor in prison was helping her understand the impact of her actions, not just on me, but on herself. She began to see how her choices had trapped her in a web of lies that had grown more complex and destructive with each deception. "Mum," she wrote in a letter that arrived 6 months after her sentencing, "I think I'm starting to understand what I did to you, and to myself. The counselor says I was addicted to the lifestyle, to the way people looked at me when they thought I was successful. I never thought about what I was taking from you. I just saw money, not your future." I kept that letter in my jewelry box next to the necklace she'd bought me with her first honest paycheck. My own healing journey involved therapy with Dr. Williams, a compassionate woman who specialized in helping victims of financial crimes. She helped me understand that I hadn't failed as a mother, that some people choose destructive paths regardless of their upbringing. "You gave her a moral foundation," Dr. Williams assured me during one session. "She chose to abandon it temporarily, but that foundation is still there. Prison might help her remember who you raised her to be." I also joined a support group for family members affected by financial fraud. Meeting other parents, siblings, and spouses who'd been betrayed by their loved ones helped me realize I wasn't alone in this experience. One unexpected positive outcome was the attention my story received in the local newspaper. The reporter portrayed me as a mother who'd made a difficult but necessary stand against financial crime. The article led to invitations to speak at bank security seminars and community groups about recognizing the warning signs of identity theft. "Your courage in holding your own daughter accountable has helped protect other families," the bank's security director told me after one presentation. "People need to understand that love doesn't mean enabling criminal behavior." My credit score began recovering slowly as the fraud charges were removed from my record. The bank acknowledged my victim status and worked with me to minimize the long-term damage. A community fundraiser organized by my church helped cover legal costs and replaced some of my depleted savings. Ruth decided to move closer to Chicago, buying a small house just 20 minutes from mine. Having my sister nearby provided emotional support I hadn't realized I needed. We developed new traditions, including Sunday dinners, that reminded me family could be about genuine love and support, rather than manipulation and exploitation. 8 months after Jessica's arrest, I received a different kind of letter from prison. Her handwriting was more careful, thoughtful, without the desperate urgency of her earlier correspondence. "Mum, I want to apologize. Not because I'm hoping you'll help me get out early, or because I want something from you. I want to apologize because I finally understand the magnitude of what I did. I didn't just steal money from you. I stole your sense of security, your trust, your peace of mind. I took the woman who had sacrificed everything for me and repaid her with betrayal. There's no excuse for that. None." She continued, The counselor asks me to imagine how I would feel if my own daughter did to me what I did to you. The thought makes me physically sick. You worked for 28 years to build financial stability, and I destroyed it in a few months for things that didn't even matter. Designer clothes and expensive dinners can't compare to the love and security you gave me growing up. I know I can't undo what I've done. I can't give you back the months of anxiety and fear I caused. I can't restore your credit score instantly or erase the embarrassment of having your daughter arrested at a party. But I can promise you this: when I get out, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I remember who you raised me to be. That letter marked a turning point in our relationship. I began responding to her letters cautiously at first, sharing updates about my life and my healing process. We had honest conversations about the choices that led to her imprisonment and the work she was doing to understand her motivations. Jessica threw herself into prison education programs, earning a certificate in accounting and helping other inmates with financial literacy. She said understanding how money really worked, seeing the careful budgeting required for people with limited resources, helped her appreciate the value of what she'd stolen from me. When I finally visited her in prison, 10 months into her sentence, I barely recognized the woman sitting across from me. Gone was the designer wardrobe and entitled attitude. Jessica looked tired but genuine vulnerable in a way she hadn't been since childhood. "You look good, Mum," she said softly. "Peaceful." "I feel peaceful," I admitted, for the first time in over a year. "I'm glad. I was so afraid I'd destroyed that forever." "You almost did, but I'm stronger than I thought I was." "You always were. I was just too selfish to see it." We talked for 2 hours about her counseling, her education programs, her plans for rebuilding her life after release. She asked about my work, my friends, my healing process. For the first time in years, she seemed genuinely interested in my well-being rather than what I could provide for her. "I have a job lined up when I get out," she told me as our visit ended. "It's entry level and the pay is barely above minimum wage, but it's honest work. I want to start over the right way this time." "I'm proud of you for that. I know I have to earn back your trust. I know it might take years if it's even possible." "It's possible," I said carefully. "Trust can be rebuilt, but it requires consistency and time. It requires choosing the right thing even when no one is watching." "I understand. And Mum, thank you." "For what?" "For loving me enough to let me face the consequences of my actions. For not enabling me to become an even worse person than I already was. For saving me from myself." As I walked out of that prison, I felt something I hadn't expected: hope. Not for a quick return to our old relationship, but for the possibility of building something new and honest. Jessica was released 4 months early for good behavior. True to her word, she took the entry-level job and moved into a modest apartment across town. She didn't ask me for money, co-signing, or any other assistance. Instead, she sent me her first honest paycheck stub with a note: "This is what pride feels like." We began rebuilding our relationship slowly with clear boundaries and honest communication. Sunday dinners resumed, but the dynamic had changed completely. Jessica listened more than she talked. She asked about my life with genuine interest. She took responsibility for her choices without making excuses or shifting blame. 1 year after her release, Jessica handed me an envelope during one of our dinners. "What's this?" I asked. "The first payment toward what I owe you. It's not much, only $500, but it's the beginning." I opened the envelope to find not just money, but a letter. "Mum, I calculated the total cost of what I did to you, the stolen money, your legal fees, the credit repair costs, the emotional therapy, everything. It comes to over $700,000. At my current salary, paying you back will take decades. but I want you to know I'm committed to making this right, however long it takes. Jessica, you don't have to. Yes, I do. This isn't about the money anymore, Mum. This is about proving that I'm the daughter you thought you'd raised, the daughter you deserved all along. Looking at my daughter now, I see glimpses of the child I once knew and the woman she's becoming. The road to full redemption is long, and trust remains fragile. But genuine change is possible when someone truly commits to it. I've learned that love sometimes means letting people face the consequences of their actions, even when those people are your children. I've learned that family doesn't excuse betrayal, and that protecting yourself from manipulation isn't selfish, it's necessary. Most importantly, I've learned that the hardest choices often lead to the most meaningful growth, both for ourselves and for the people we love. People often ask me if I regret turning in my own daughter. I tell them I regret that it was necessary, but I don't regret doing it. Because real love isn't about avoiding difficult conversations or protecting people from the results of their choices. Real love is about doing what's right, even when it breaks your heart. And sometimes breaking your heart is the only way to save your soul. If someone you love is destroying themselves and trying to take you down with them, remember this: you can love them and protect yourself at the same time. That's not selfish or cruel. That's wisdom. And sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between protecting yourself and protecting someone you love? How did you handle it, and what did you learn from the experience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else facing a similar situation. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more real-life stories about family forgiveness and finding strength in difficult times. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries with family members, even when it's painful. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.